Could you effectively discipline a child without going the route of beating?
For me, I think it was very effective.
So I was naked and she called me out. She allowed the community to come in through the gates, and then they were all just standing there looking at me that I just bedwetted, and they started singing. Where do we draw the line? Let's talk about pedophiles, for example. They are in our communities. We don't know who they are.
My dad used to be a banker. Before we even wake up, he was off to work. And by the time we are asleep, he's not yet back home. I can't recall ever going out with my dad. I have no recollection of just one single experience.
Wow.
I saw a pattern in my family. At a particular point, I just told my wife, I want to break this pattern.
Is there a requirement from a man's perspective where you say, okay, you shouldn't think about marriage until this?
If you base your marriage as a young person on your earning capacity, if it fails, then that marriage might crash with it. It's not really a bad thing for you to fail when you try your hands on things. It's only be bad if after you fail, you don't give it a second try.
Welcome to another episode, and today I have with me Mr. Temidayo Ogundeji. He is a purpose-driven believer, someone that is shaped through the prayers of his resilient mother. He is one of 6 children, I think the last of 6 children, and I know him as a keyboardist, plays the keyboard, many instruments. So it is a privilege to talk to him today, and just to share a bit more on his story and how, specifically, how he grew up and having should I say, a physically present father, but an emotionally absent father. So we're going to talk about those dynamics and his transition into the United Kingdom, his career transition as well, and just see how his life is grounded in faith, legacy, and encouragement. So welcome, Mr. Timidayo.
Thank you so much for having me here. I count it as a big privilege. Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to the conversation, and I hope I'll be blessed, you'll be blessed, and everyone that listening also will be blessed.
Yeah, I mean that's what we want. We want people to be able to, because I think there's power in story, and there is power in experiences. Lived wisdom is what we call them here at Project Alpha, and I think everybody and anybody is able to learn from people's story, and oftentimes I find that you don't really know that someone's got a story until you speak to them.
Yeah.
The Bible usually talks about, well, when we look at the Bible, there's an example that talks about the revelation of God. So God really revealing himself to mankind.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't really know him until he reveals himself, which is why he decided to come through Jesus Christ to reveal God unto us, which is Emmanuel, God with us. So I believe that it is, number one, a very good thing that I think we need today, where we are having these kind of conversations between each other, and maybe countries need this so that they can stop fighting wars. Have conversations. Right. Exactly. Get to know each other. Get to learn from each other. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. It means a lot. You talk about being the last of 6 children in your family, so we're going to start there. I was talking to someone earlier, and he was also the last born, and then they talked about some last born privileges, about being sort of the favorite. How was it being the last born out of a family of 6 children?
Well, I want to state that I grew up in a family of 6, but the children were actually 4. Okay. So my dad and my mom mixed the 5th and the 6th, right? A member of the family. Okay, yes, but growing up as the last born of the house, well, it comes with its ups and downs, right? I think it's actually the same for almost everyone that falls in that category.
Yeah.
Okay, so for someone like me, I think I tilt more towards the good side of it, because among the children that my parents had, we've got just one girl, right? And she is the eldest. Okay. So while growing up, because of that age difference that is between us, we've actually got 8 years difference between us. So she played more of a motherly role, much more than a sisterly role towards me. So most of the engagements that I should have actually been involved with in terms of household chores, in terms of running errands and things
Mhm.
like that, she takes up that responsibility for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
I see her more like like a mother, much more than a sister because
Mm.
of that wideness in the age difference. So I think for me, in the household, I was a bit pampered just because I've got that sister who is actually
Mm.
the firstborn. So in terms of, let's say, things like sweeping of the floor, which is most common to people from African descent and Nigeria especially, as in I'm always excluded from it because the portion that would have been given to me, my sister takes it up, right? Things
Yeah.
like washing the dishes, things like doing laundry. During our time, while we were
Yeah.
growing up, there was nothing like washing machine, so we wash our clothes with our hands
Yep.
and things like that. So I get to do less of those things because I've got her as my backing.
Mm.
So any work portion that was assigned to me then, as a master would just tell me, "Don't worry, Temidayo, bring it. I'm going to do it for you."
Mm.
Right. To the extent of even at times when I needed to take my beat myself, she would say, "Don't worry, I'm going to beat you up." So it was until I grew to my teenage years that I now realized that, oh, all those things I enjoyed then was actually a privilege. But, so for me, I think coming as the last child of the family, I had a lot of good times to it.
Mm.
And this even has to do with probably when things got in terms of gifts and things like that. When our parents get to buy us things, I get more because I'm
Mm.
actually the last child of the family.
Yeah.
Then I also noticed that while growing up, the way my elder siblings were treated was not the way I was treated. I was given preferential treatment. For example, I will cite instance. I know that most times when my siblings do things that are wrong, they get beaten. The way Africans
Yeah.
actually beat as a way of correcting or disciplining their children. But for me, I did not have it that way. Yes, I was still disciplined, but I had less of those beatings.
Mm.
Right, while growing up,
Yeah.
just because I actually saw that preferential treatment come to play.
Yeah. I'll
Mm.
ask. So, when we talk about beating, right?
Yeah,
There's beating, there's beating.
yeah,
You mentioned that they didn't do as much for you. It was
yes,
so they found other ways to discipline you.
yes.
I beg to ask the question that how effective or could you effectively discipline a child without going the route of beating?
Well, yeah, I think you can actually discipline a child without going through the route of beating, as in, and it depends on so many factors. I think one of the things that was helpful in my own case while growing up was I've actually got that communal supports,
Mm.
right? As being different from what is obtainable here in Africa, we've actually had that communal support where it's everyone's responsibility to actually train a child up.
Yeah.
So beyond the training you receive from your parents, and that training is inclusive of the discipline and every other thing that your
Mm.
parents dish out to you. You've got members of the communities, neighbors, those ones that are also responsible. They play a kind of oversight function over you,
Mm.
right? So for me, I think while growing up, I had those people come to actually help in training me up much more than the little conclave of my nuclear family
Mm. Mm.
training me up because as at then I've got based on what we were living then, I've got people in the neighborhood, that if I do anything wrong, I know they will be there to spank me, they will be there to discipline me.
Mm.
My parents don't even need to hear about it, right?
Yeah.
So because I don't even want it to get to my parents, whatever thing they say, I just take it as yes. So if they tell me, Temidayo, don't go near this thing, I dare not go because it was actually a small community where I grew up, right? And as at that time, the area was actually developing. So almost every member of the community knows each other, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
everyone plays that oversight function over the other family's children. So it was actually very easy for me. So for me, I found it easy. So while I escaped the beatings, so to say, in quotes, of my parents and discipline of my parents, but the community support was still there to guide me so that I don't completely go astray. Right. So I see in them a kind of they play that kind of a watchdog role.
How important is that to raising a child? So, I would. The reason why I'm asking that is because over here, for example, it's completely different
Yeah.
to maybe what you're used to. It's less of the community and more of you and your nuclear family. I remember growing up in a community as well. I mean, one of the most vivid stories that I have um, of me being disciplined was, I'm gonna have to just admit this. I'm gonna have to admit this. So I was one of those that stopped bedwetting until very late. And when I say very late, I mean very, very late. So, usually, like, I look at my son, he stopped when he was 3.
Okay.
In fact, he maybe bedwetted twice or 3 times, but like maybe like when it was 3, that was when he basically stopped. Me looking at maybe like 10, right? So it was very late. And I knew that what I was doing wasn't necessarily good, because there were sometimes that I knew what I was doing in the middle of the night. I knew I was literally bedwetting right now. I'm paying right now, but I was too lazy to get up. So I knew that I was smart enough to say, okay, in the middle of the night, once I'm done, all right, I'll get up, change my clothes. And I used to
pretend like nothing happened.
like nothing happened. And then I would roll my brother onto it, and then he would get in trouble. So it was just all these crazy things. But the discipline that I received, that I think made me stop, was back then in Nigeria. My mom, it's much more of a communal discipline, right? Communal family, like we party together, we eat together, that kind of thing. And then my mom called me out. And in Nigeria, you see kids running around naked. So I was naked. And then she called me out to the street, not the street, to the front of our house. We had like a massive compound, we call it. And then she allowed the people of community to come in to the gate, through the gates, and then they were all just standing there looking at me that I just bedwetted. And then they started singing.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
That's just as for a little go, something like that, which is basically saying, bedwetter, you stink, those kind. So they basically sang that song, and I guess that was what got to me, because the beating didn't really get to me. It must have been the realization of the humiliation. How it's quite humiliating when people then get to find out. So that was how I changed. So I bring that up to emphasize, or to get your opinion on the emphasis of communal discipline when it comes to children.
I actually think it is very important, even though it's not entrenched in the system here, right? But for me, I think it was very effective. While even though, like I said, times have changed now, and development has actually gone. A lot of diversities and a lot of things has overtaken some of these practices that we used to practice in time past. So, but still, I feel that for us of African descent, it's actually very important that we still don't, even though we found ourselves in different communities across the world today, but I still feel that if we can actually find a way of still connecting with people that share the same values and the same understanding of how important synergy from true communal discipline is, I think it will actually help in forming or in grooming children. Because, like I said, one of the things that we don't want to do then is to even allow whatever we do within the community to get to our parents. Because we know we're actually going to lose some benefits, some advantages that we would naturally get from our parents if they hear. And because we know if it gets to our parents, we are also soiling their reputation, damaging their reputation. So whatever thing that we do out there, we know that because those people that are members of the community have a way of getting to our parents, we always want to be of our best behavior.
Yeah.
While out there. And in one way or the other, it now has effects on even in the way we behave at home. So for me, I think it's actually very important for us to still find a way of building up that bond within the community, and to make everyone realize that I have a part to play in another family's children development, even though we are not located in the same physical community. But because we share the same value system, we are from so to say the same origin, or the same race or tribe. There are still things that joins us together. There are still beliefs, there are still ideologies that we share together, that if we actually follow it, can be helpful in the way we raise our children up. And I think that's what is actually missing today in the grooming of children. Those That system was effective then. If it's practiced today, it will still be very effective, right? But most times we tend to like do away with those things as a result of civilization. But for me, I think it worked seriously in my case, because if not for that communal support that my parents had in grooming us, I think I would have turned out worse. Yeah. And I'm going to cite an instance. I remember while growing up as a child, I grew up in the days where rap music, R&Bs, and all those things were just coming up. And I still remember some of them very. Yeah, I don't know if you heard of people like artists like Patra, artists like Shabaranks,
Definitely not.
artists like Tony Brastin,
Yeah.
artists like Boyz II Men, artists
Okay.
like so I grew. How come I know all these things? Because in the physical community where I was living there, where we're located there, have got people of because those songs were just coming up. So and I've got a lot of children of my age actually going out there singing those songs, going to parties, smoking, even at that early age within the community. And I'm also exposed to them. But while being exposed to them, for me, because I know the kind of role my parents played within that community then, and I know the kind of people that are in the community, the parents that are in the community. So I know that if I go to those parties, and I get myself involved in the dance they dance, in the activities they engage in, I know it's going to get to my parents, and I know I'm going to receive backlashes from my parents. So I decided to just keep away from it. So even when I go out there, I will not get involved in it, but I will just stay there. When I go to parties, I go to parties with them, with a friend, but I will not go into the main party. I will just stay outside like the watchdog and wait for them to come out. I will not join them to do it.
Yeah.
Right, because I know that if any member of the community, the elderly people within the community, get to see me, news is going to get to my parents. So as a way, it was actually effective, right, in my grooming while I was growing up. And I think it was part of what shaped me into who I am today.
So you're very much a communal person.
Yes, groomed. I was groomed within the community was very lovely then, right? I've got a lot of people within it was not even a Christian community, so to say. Different mix of religion, different mix of people, but we had that respect for people in the community, because we know that the elders within the community form they have this close bond
Yeah.
among themselves. And we know whatever we do, what is going to get to our parents.
Should I would I would like to liken this to, or to try and derive something from this. So what I'm hearing is that there is some level of importance to name,
Very, very true.
to name versus what we are seeing today. I feel like in today's age, it could be because of where we found ourselves in terms of the advancement of technology and people just not caring as much. There's a lack of care given to the name that you carry.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a lot of people that I've spoken to, they've also said, "Oh, because my dad usually tells me, he says, remember the son of whom you are," which is basically a saying without saying too much, to say that, look,
Yeah.
whatever you do affects the name,
Yeah, the
our
name.
name, because it's not just you that it affects your parents, it affects your brothers, your sisters. So growing up with the consciousness that whatever I do will affect my parent, and people know my parent.
Yeah.
So they are able, because if I do this, it changes the perception of my parents to these people,
Yeah.
even though I'm the one committing the
Mm-hmm.
act. And if they were to report it to my parents would not like the fact that their name is being tarnished because of
Exactly.
something that I have done.
Yeah.
So all of these things, it sounds like a
Yeah.
web where
Yeah.
I wish we were taking names more
Seriously now.
seriously
Yeah.
now than we
Mm.
are. You know,
And I actually think is the missing factor now. The serious missing factor, especially
mm,
among the black community. Today, hardly can you see an elderly person correct another family's child without receiving backlash from that family.
mm,
Even though it must have been done out of love, but now you hardly find it very difficult for for parents of children being born now within the black community to take corrections given to their children with good minds, and that's what is missing now, because today everybody, I guess, again, like I said, the laws of the lands where we are currently located could also be a major factor in
yeah,
forming part of those decisions, why
yeah,
people are not open to those corrections, especially the adults on
yeah,
their children.
yeah,
But I think if we can actually find a way around it, it's going to really help in grooming the children that we are giving birth to nowadays. As in,
mm,
I still feel that community bonding, as in, is actually very. For example, someone like me, I used to tell my children, I
mm,
said, see, understand your right, know your right, but also appreciate if someone that is older than you, of your mate, tells you that something is wrong. I'm not telling you to take it line, hook, and sinker, but I'm saying look at it, review it,
mm,
see what is good about it, see what is wrong about it, try to take the good part of it and imbibe it and try to build on that to develop yourself. And whatever that is bad about it, please leave it aside, say it aside. It's not every advice that is good, but the Bible says in the multitude of counsel there is safety. So if someone has corrected you or tell you that this thing that you are doing is wrong, please look at it critically, thank that person and tell him or her, I'm going to change, I'm going to do it. Then look at it. If it's something that it's okay with you, right, go ahead and change. If it's something that you feel that it's not okay, as you go, leave it aside, but
yeah,
be open to correction.
yeah,
So I think there, and the correction can actually come from anyone. The moment children are not open to correction again, they are on the path of perdition.
mm, mm,
And the correction can come from anyone. But again, it still boils down to the fact that how, as those children, how have they been brought up by their parents? Did their parents make them understand this? I'm always very happy when, even when I'm there or when I'm not there, if my children can be corrected, if they've done something wrong, I take it as, oh, have I failed in that area? Then do I need to still do something more in that? I am very open to it,
mm,
because I wouldn't be where I am today if my parents have been closed to corrections being given to
mm,
me by
mm,
people of the
mm,
community. So, because I believe it's not just enough as a parent in today's age, you can't actually completely play that oversight function over your children correct and adequately. Yes, you will do your best, but we still need that external support. There might be parts that you may miss. And today, a lot of people see social media and all those things as a way
yeah,
of filling in that gap. But for me, I think, yes, they can actually fill some parts of the gap that the parents can't fill. But I still feel there is a need for that community
yeah,
bonding to
yeah.
play that part.
I would say, first of all, to clarify, because we use the word grooming a lot in Nigeria and
Mm-hmm.
in some other parts of the world. But grooming is sort of seen as in a negative sense
Okay.
in this part of the world
Mm.
and in the
So
United
that you will
States.
not become
So,
radicalized. Right, I
so
know.
that yeah, so that they don't exactly so that
Yeah.
because and that fascinated me when I found out, because I went back, I checked for the definition of grooming, and it basically just means that you are influencing, training
Mm-hmm.
somebody into a particular path. So could you actually then use that in a sense that we are using it in terms of training my children through a particular path, which is what we should be doing. We should train them. So you could use the word grooming, but oftentimes, and this is what I see, that words tend to change depending on the use of it in a certain community.
Mm-hmm.
So the same word I can use here, I might not be able to use it
Yeah.
in another community
Yeah.
because it just means something different in
Yeah.
that community.
What it connotes
Yeah.
at
So for
times.
some reason, the word grooming is now being connotated to
Mm.
sexual grooming.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify that to
Yeah.
everybody in the sense of the context that we're using that word.
Yeah.
And I would chime in on one of your points that you said that we do need a communal
Support.
support.
Yeah.
But then where do we draw the line? Because a lot of people are should I say more sophisticated, because in the sense that, let's talk about pedophiles, for example, right? They are in our communities. We
Yeah.
don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So how do we flesh out these sort of people? And even though we want a communal sort of discipline, a communal sort of way of life, yet we want to protect our children
Yeah.
from these dangerous people.
Yeah.
And I think you alluded to that fact, and when you mentioned that, okay, you can listen, by the end of the day,
You still sieve
you
it
you
out and
sieve it
yeah.
out. I think that is the key thing. And in maybe in the sieving out, your parents must be involved.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah. For me, I think in every community there will always I'm always a key believer in many groups. And what do I mean by many groups? I believe in selective association.
Mm,
You can have a wider community, but within that wider community, you can still have sub community that will
mm,
be people that you're actually very closely knitted with.
mm,
Right? And there are people that you understand a bit about them, you know what they stand for, you understand a bit of their ideology, you know what
mm.
their value system is. Yeah. So with those kind of people within the mega community,
Yeah.
yeah, you still feel a little bit safe. Yeah, that still does not mean everything, every form of advice, every form of correction they dish out in helping to train one's children should be taken line, hook, and sinker. But they see some level of safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they share your beliefs, you share the same belief, you have the same values,
Mm,
you share the same ideas, you've seen them speak before. Beyond even speak, you've also seen good examples from them. Probably this way they also train their children. You know, they'll say, "Show me your friend. I will tell you who. I will tell you who you are."
yeah.
So you've seen what they've done before. Then
Yeah.
you can, to a very large extent, still depend on their trust, count their trust. To be able to help train your children if there is a need for it. Yeah.
Mm,
So that's what I'm saying. Selective association.
yeah.
Yeah, within the mega community. Yeah. So I think for me, that way you would have been able to sieve out the other radicals within the community,
Yeah.
people that form into the categories of the pedophiles that you've
Mm,
mentioned, the sexualists, and every form of negative members of the
yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can actually take that out from every community, but we can always mitigate
Yes.
our risk of exposing ourselves and our children
Yeah. Yeah.
to their ploy. So
Yeah.
for me, I think it has to do with selective association.
Yeah. And I would
Right.
say it starts from a strong foundation that the
Mm-hmm.
parents has already set. Do you know what I
In the
mean?
children,
In
yeah.
the children, if the child knows who they are and they
Yeah.
go out there, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they sort of know what is right, what is
Yeah.
wrong, because of the foundation that the parents have laid. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you do not have that foundation played, do not even focus on communal.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Make sure that
Mm-hmm.
that foundation. Let's go into more of you and your mom,
Okay.
and then your dad, the dynamics between
Yeah.
that and your, maybe the rest of your siblings. You mentioned that your mom was amazing, that she was very caring,
Yeah.
emotionally there. Whatever you needed, you were able to afford,
Yeah.
really. But then you mentioned that your dad was physically there but
Yeah.
emotionally distant.
Yeah.
What was it like having a dad that was there? You could see him, but it wasn't really there for you.
Well, it's actually a tough one. Okay, it's a tough one because bringing it to today's age, I think it's actually one of the things that has shaped my decision in being present in the life of my children,
Mm,
right? Because I can remember very vividly, part of him not being around has to do with his career. My dad used to be a banker in Nigeria with the United Bank of Africa, that's UBA,
Mm.
and he was actually a top banker. And during his own days, while we were growing up, which was his own active years of working, he was his job was very demanding, right? So before we even wake up, I thought he was off to work,
Mm.
and by the time we are asleep, he's not yet back home from work,
Wow.
right? So and that is routine Monday to Friday. Then weekends when we are meant to be with him, when he's meant to play with us, he's a socialite, as in, so he'll be off with his friends, drinking,
Yeah.
partying and doing all of those stuff. So for most part of the week, we are always left with our mom,
Mm.
right? She's the one that takes us to school, brings us back home, cooks. Yes, we also have some other people living with us then, extended family members, right? But for us, we have that close and that affinity more towards our mom because she's the one that we always see available. But beyond seeing her, beyond her being available for us physically, like I mentioned to you, I think one of the fond memories that I have, my mom is still, of course, very present. She's alive. Yeah. But one of the fond memories that I had for her while growing up was her prayer lifestyle.
Mm.
It's always a prayer. A prayer always wakes me up in the morning because she'll be on her knee by her bedside praying for us as
Mm.
early as 4:35 in the morning.
Wow.
We wakes up to that prayer. Uh, and even when she was praying then, she was not really a devoted Christian like that. But because for whatever, I don't know, whatever informed her decision to always pray because she grew up from a Muslim background. So it was actually my dad that brought her into the Christian faith.
Really?
Yes. But I guess why she came into the Christian faith, the church that she was attending then, Baptist church, was actually a praying church. So probably it was there she learned the importance of prayer. I'm not too sure.
Mm.
But my fond memories of her was praying for every of our child, praying for our future, praying for even while we don't know. Because then, while growing up, my dad had more affinity. Then, even though he was a Christian, but he was a nonchalant Christian, and I guess because of the nature of friends he keeps as a then, my dad was more comfortable with people that are of that have affinity towards traditional activities and
Mm.
religion and things like that. So my dad just stopped going to church. So I think all those things geared my mom more towards securing her children's future through in the place of prayer. He said whatever my dad does was irrelevant to her then. She said the only thing that is important to her was praying for our children.
Yeah.
And I think for me, and every of my siblings, I think it's actually paid off.
I was about to ask, do you feel like it's paid off?
It's actually paid off. I think today, by the grace of God, out of the four children, we actually lost one,
Mm.
right? So we are three left, and the three of us left. I've got, of course, I'm the last child. The next older sibling is actually well established. He's a pastor in Redeem today, a senior pastor in Redeem.
Mm.
He's also in the United Kingdom here, and he's actually a global leader, uh, even in the place of academics. He's in the academia world,
Yeah.
in the United Kingdom here, and same also with my older sister. Yeah, that is she's actually a tech woman, and also a business entrepreneur. Right. So I think for us, we are all happily married with our different families, serving God. Blessed in our own way. Of course, so many people say, "Oh, being blessed is also relative."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we are blessed in our own way, and for me, I think it has actually paid off. Paid off, especially in the place of every one of us. We know God,
Mm.
and for me, I think that for me serves as the greatest reward of our prayer. because we got, like I said, the environment we grew up, we were exposed to a lot of vices while growing up. But I think our prayer actually played a very great part also
Mm.
to support the communal support that we had. My mom was always praying for
Yeah.
us.
And did you not miss your dad?
Well, yes, like I said, even though he was not too present, yeah, but anytime we need to go to him for advice,
Mm.
yeah, he's ready to give it anytime. And I think now in his older age, he's also very much alive, and I love him. Yeah, but now in his older age, he also has come to realize that that bond that was missing while growing up, we've actually formed it with him now, because now he can't actually walk as he used to.
Mm.
He's a bit old now, right? So now all he does now is just looking forward to talk to his children, share experience with
Yeah.
them and things
Yeah.
like that. But that kind of bond that children were supposed to have while growing up was not really there within, especially in the place of guiding the child, in the place of career choosing, in the place of exposure to what happens or what's happening in the community.
Mm.
We don't have that kind of guide from our dad. That fatherly guide wasn't really there
Mm.
in the place of choosing career. For example, my only recollection of him while growing up was that he was a banker, and
That's
he
all
and
you know.
yes, and he was actually very generous to a lot of people out there because he was making good money. But outside that, I can't recall ever going out with my dad
Wow.
for recreational activities all through my childhood. I
Wow.
have no recollection of just one single
Wow.
experience,
Not one.
not one.
So how because I know that you're a father to
Eh,
boys and
eh,
girls.
like, like, like,
How has that changed or
yeah,
shaped the
like
way?
I said, because I don't want that pattern to
Yeah.
be. So it's a conscious decision for me that place of connectivity that was missing in my own
Mm.
childhood between myself and my dad.
Mm.
I deliberately looked at how to bridge that gap between myself and my children now. And in
Okay.
so consciously every month, no matter how busy I am, I make sure I take my children out.
Mm.
Right? We have a discussion around that with my family, my wife and my children. As in, sometimes even if we can't go to exotic places and expensive places, it could be places as close to us as parks around. I go with them for a walk,
Mm.
because that way I see that when I have that kind of interaction with them, they are more open, they are more free. We can have discussions,
Mm.
and it's also creating some kind of memories
Yeah.
in their mind. So for me, it's actually helped inform the decisions that I'm taking with my children now.
Yeah.
Right. And I hope when they also grow up, it will also inform the decisions they take with their children.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think if that wasn't the case with the way you grew up, do you think you would have had that same mentality? I know there was something I heard a while back that says that the negative experiences speak louder than the positive ones.
Well, I think it sometimes may be true,
Yeah.
because for me, if I've not had that kind of experience, I may not value the importance of taking my children out.
Mm.
But because I missed that part in my childhood and teenage years, I don't want my children to miss out on that
Yeah.
part. So it's actually informed the decision I'm taking with my children on it
Yeah.
now. So, and I think if I've not, I don't know what my children will do when they get to the place of adulthood later on. But I just hope they can also take cues from what I'm doing with them now, and find a way of actually building up on it when
Mm.
they start having their own families, when they get to
So
that point, right?
yeah, sort of on the back of that question, that is so you took that negative experience because you felt the vacuum and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't want my children to feel the same vacuum.
Yeah,
And then you made a change.
yeah,
Um, Often you would say that when it's positive, it doesn't have as much effect. So your children would probably say, or they could probably say, oh, I remember going out with my dad. It was amazing. It was great.
mm.
Um, do you think that them having that positive effect would should I say command them to have the same intentionality
Well,
to do it for their
I'm
children?
I'm actually hoping that it would. But again, like I said, when once someone cross 18, you can only leave them with the decisions that they take. Leave it to them to
Mm,
take that decision. You can only hope that they actually take cues
mm,
from you before they actually get to that age. So for me, I'm honestly trusting that this experience, because like I said, one of the things that would have actually guided me with that experience, if I had that kind of relationship with my
yeah.
dad, would have been in the place of choosing a career path. I choose the career path while growing up during my teenage years wrongly,
Mm,
because I had no one to guide me. I just followed what my peers were doing. Every of my friends while in secondary school was going to science class. And I said, well, that sounds nice. If I go to commercial or arts class,
mm,
I will look like it will appear I'm a dullard. And because I know I'm brilliant, let me follow my friends to science
yeah.
class. And that was the only thing that informed my decision into going to science class. Again, what informed my decision in choosing the course that I went to study, which was petroleum engineering, then was as a result of still following friends. It wasn't like I wanted to be an engineer. In fact, I've never practiced as an engineer.
Really?
Yes, and my only escapade in within the industry was when I did my 6 months industrial attachment that we
Mm,
do in Africa when you're in the university. Outside that, and that I did in an oil company,
yeah.
the NNPC, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Yeah, but outside my 6 months industrial training experience, I've never had anything to do with be it science or engineering
Wow.
at
So it
all.
was
So I
completely.
yeah, it's so I would not have ventured because my skills. I think while growing up, I've always tilted more towards business. And I remember that during one of my interactions in secondary school, one of my teachers mentioned that to me, that it seems you love business studies.
Mm,
As in, but I just didn't want to go to commercial or arts class. Probably if I had gone to commercial or arts class, I would have read accounting or something business related. Or if I've had that conversation with my dad, maybe I would have been advised that, oh, Temidayo, I think you are more good in this area. But because I
yeah.
had no one
Yeah.
to actually
Yeah.
have that discussion
Yeah.
with, then no one was open to that conversation with me. So what my friends were doing, I just felt it was the best. And how will it look like if I go the way of accounting or the way of law? Because to me then, I went to a government school and I felt like it was dollar. People that were dollars are the ones studying, going to commercial class. And they're like, so if you're actually brilliant, then it's either you study anything engineering or you study medicine and surgery.
Mm,
Anything outside those two courses, you are not there at all
wow.
academically.
Wow.
So that was what actually informed my
Wow.
decision.
So it wasn't about what you're good at,
No, not at
right?
all.
It was
Not
just
at all.
about what everybody else was
What
doing
everybody
and
else was
following.
doing.
Wow.
Yeah, I did very well in it, but then I wouldn't have chosen that career because it got before going to university. This reminded me. I went to the Polytechnic also. I
Mm,
went to Yaba College of Technology in Nigeria, and I read the course called Chemical Science. And I remember that I actually take up a module while in Yaba College of Technology then on electronics that was similar to
mm,
engineering a bit. And I remember then that anytime we are in the laboratory and we had to connect things together, things that has to do with diodes, capacitors, and things like that, I'm not anywhere good at connecting those things. In fact, I don't know how to hold screwdriver to screw things up, right? But when it comes to plotting the graphs
mm,
of the results, every other person will give it to me to help them plot
I
on
see.
paper or to write stories around whatever thing that we have done. But when it comes to the technical part of it, it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I fell short seriously in that area. So which confirmed to me that I had no business in engineering. All right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to discussions around it,
Yeah.
yeah, or business related skills, oh no, I'm top notch when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah.
So after my days in the polytechnic, I still had no guide. And I now had to go take the entrance examination to university again and went to study petroleum engineering again. And I managed to finish. I still finished as one of the top. In fact, I finished as the second top in my department.
Wow.
I narrowly missed finishing as the best student even in the university in my department because I had some clash with some lecturers in the university then in my department then, and I was also involved in some student activities while on campus. So those things actually came as backlashes to me, and it affected me finishing as the best in my department and in the university then. But I finished as the second best. Even after finishing, I've never gone near anything engineering. And I now discover that I tilt more towards anything banking, which if I'd had this interaction with my
With your
dad,
dad.
hey, right, for especially in being a banker,
Yeah.
probably I would have been guided rightly. And I wouldn't need to waste my time studying the courses that I studied. Probably I would have even opened my own bank today.
Yeah, possible. Let me talk about marriage. One of the things that you said was tough for you was marriage.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe I'll start from whatever you want to start from. What was it about it that was difficult?
Okay, I saw a pattern in my family.
Mm,
Every of my older siblings got married after the clock 30 years.
30.
Yeah. And my education was very fast. I think at the age of 14, I was already out of secondary school.
Really?
Right, yeah. I think at the age of 4, I was already in year 1.
Mm,
Yeah, because I picked up very fast,
mm.
and I was very good with numbers and some things like that, right? So 14, 15, yeah, 15 I was out. After my secondary, I went to the polytechnic. That was very fast. I think I was already in the polytechnic at the age of 17
Mm.
in Yaba College of Tech. That was in 2002. 2003 2003 in 2003 because of the strikes and all of those things that Nigerian tertiary institutions do experience. Our course started fully, and I got out of Yaba Tech in 2005. Then I went to university. Okay, between 2005 and 2010 I worked. Between 2005 and 2006 I worked a bit. Then I went back to the university to study petroleum engineering
Mm.
again, and I graduated in 2010. And right there, now at 2010, I was 25 years. I was already thinking of marriage
At 25.
at 25 because as at then I'd actually met my current wife, and because I was not exposed to things other teenagers and other youths of my age then were doing in terms of dating, multi dating, and things like that. So I didn't really do that. So my wife was actually like my second date, the
Mm.
second person I would ever go out with. So as of then, I was already ready to marry.
So you had the
But
mindset
you get
already.
the mindset
Yeah.
of this is the final bus stop. I'm not going anywhere else. But how do I go into it? There was no money. I was working. I started working immediately after school.
Mm.
Right. I got a job with a bank, and I started working. And I couldn't really save towards the marriage. My wife was even open to it that let's just start small and things like that. Then within the family, anytime I bring up that discussion with my siblings and things like that, they will say, oh, you are not prepared for it yet, and things like, because everybody was actually waiting for that elaborate Nigerian kind
Kind
of
of wedding. Yeah.
wedding. At a particular point in time in 2013, I just told my wife, I said, see, whatever it's going to cost, I'm not going to get to 30 years before I get married. I want to break this pattern. It must break with me, break with me. It won't continue with me.
Mm.
And I told my siblings, I told my parents were fine with it. Yeah, but I told my siblings told me that, are you sure you are ready for this? I said, how will you finance this? And then I was living in a very small place. Said, is this where you are going to marry into? A lot of setbacks,
Mm.
a lot of setbacks. Then when I also extreme my life then with what was obtainable with my colleagues, I'll say, Timidayo, are you really ready for this? But thank God for the encouragement of my wife then, who was my fiance as at then. She just said, don't worry, whatever it is, even if it is that one room that you're living, would get married in that place.
Mm.
And it was tough. I went ahead to meet her parents, and we set a date. And as at then, that was in 2014, I was 29 years then. And I said, whatever it is, I'm going to get married. I won't cross to 30 before I get married. And yes, thank God, God actually crowned my effort. And in 2014, November, we got wedded. It was actually very tough. Even myself, I didn't believe it that I won't cross. It won't get to 2015 when I will be
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
You know, but then when we were there, so it was really tough because every other person in my family was above 30 before they got married. My sister, my brothers, every one of them was above 30.
Mm.
And even as at then, so for me, I questioned it. I said, no, whatever it's going to take, I won't get to 30. And I break with me, that pattern actually
Yeah.
broke.
Did people get married around the age of 25? Was that the norm?
Yes, I actually saw a lot of my friends that were married 23, 24, 25,
Oh,
26,
okay.
right? Because as a then they were working. I was working, so I've got
Mm.
so there's really nothing stopping me from getting married. Then after work, I was not living with my parents.
Yeah.
Even if I was living with my parents, of course, I've got a source of income, and because of where I worked and things like that, it was good income, right? But I guess also it was also a way people not wanting you to get married. Then I also felt probably because they feel that once you are married, they won't have access to you
Mm.
right the way they used to before. So a lot of factors came in, but for me, I felt no, this shouldn't be it. As in, I was not just too comfortable as at then
Mm.
with crossing to. So it was really tough for me in trying to explain, and then you have to explain to different people, even though they don't need your explanation, but you just need to make them see reasons that you are actually ready to be
Yeah.
married.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that God actually helped me to cross that stage
Yeah.
as at
And
that
break
time
that.
and break that pattern in my family. So
Yeah.
for me, it was tough, but then yeah, it worked and God helped me with it.
One of the things that you sort of have to think about when you hear that story, and it's the same thing that I think a lot of men tend to find themselves in. I mean, I've heard
Mm-hmm.
questions about at what point do you realize that okay, I'm good to go in terms of marriage, and I've had conversations where people say, you have to be financially
Stable.
stable
Yeah.
before you get married.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife said it doesn't matter what we have, even this little one, we can still get married and just. Is there a requirement from a man's perspective and from a woman's perspective where you say, okay, you shouldn't think about marriage until this?
For me, I think yes, there are some requirements.
Hmm.
I think the first one for me is your emotional maturity. It doesn't have to do with age.
Hmm.
We've seen people that have just crossed into adulthood 18 years, 19 years,
Hmm.
and they are emotionally mature. And they've gone up to spend 50, 70, 80 years in marriage, happily married.
Yeah.
And we've seen people that got married at 50, 60, and are still emotionally immature, right? So for me, I think the place of emotional maturity comes first. If I'm to rank my priorities
Hmm.
for anyone that is going to get married, then yeah, there is the place of financial stability too. Financial stability. But for me, as much as that is very important because you need to provide for your family and for yourself, right? As much as that is involved, I think there is a place of agreement
Hmm.
and understanding between both parties. Because if your marriage is based on finance alone, after marriage, if at any point in time that source of income is no longer available, then and that is what your marriage is based on
Yeah.
solely, then there's every tendency that that marriage or that home will collapse. So for me, while it's very important, I think the emphasis should not be on it. I think the emphasis should be on the God factor,
Hmm.
right? Is God really involved? And God being involved has to do with, do you guys share the same beliefs? Do you share the same understanding? Do you have the same value in, especially in the place of your religion,
Hmm.
right? Because
Hmm.
if that is not there, then you have been unequally yoked, and there will be a problem later. So for me, if that is sorted, and you are both emotionally matured. And I'm going to cite to you the instance where that emotional maturity and financial stability in terms of priority came to play in my marriage after we got married.
Mm.
Like I said, I was working in the bank, and at a particular point, after we got, as at then, my wife also had a good job, very good job. She was working with the civil service in Lagos State in
Mm.
Nigeria, and pregnancy came into the picture, our first child. When pregnancy came into the picture, as at then, my wife was doing her master's at University of Lagos. Right then, she read English language and literature under linguistics, and we didn't bargain for the way her pregnancy went. Right from the first trimester of our pregnancy for our first
Mm.
child, my wife was declared what was put under bed rest. And the department she was working in, the civil service, was an income generating department, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has to be in the office every day because our department generates daily income
Right.
for the government.
Right.
Now, because of the nature the pregnancy went, she couldn't perform her role at work. So now we went into the pregnancy on the notion that we would have combined household income. But right immediately after we got married and she got pregnant, she had to resign from her job.
Really.
She had to resign from her job because she couldn't just cope. Now then, the way it was operational then, there was no room for an early maternity leave and things like that. She just had to resign because it was from the first trimester. It was not even nearing the third trimester.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, she was doing a master's program at the university,
Which
right?
you have to pay
In
for.
which I have to pay for, and I even paid for it, right?
Yeah.
But it was not even the payment. She could not continue with her master's program. So my
Right.
the money was forfeited,
Wow.
right? She also needs to defer her program then with at the university. That's a master's program.
Mm.
Now, after she gave, so invariably, two household income became one. So everybody had to fall back on my income.
Mm.
Now, which I wasn't complaining and I didn't complain. Now, after we gave birth, one day I just told her, my wife came from a part of Nigeria that is very rural in nature. And as a result of the ruralness of the environment and still the community bonding, they have these different rural trainings
Mm.
that she got while growing up. And we had a discussion around it after we got married. And they said, come, can we try our hands on one or two of these things that you've learned? And she said, yes, why not? And we consulted our parents. They said, okay, we'll give you support with this thing.
Mm.
And after we had that discussion, myself and I, we said, oh, I think we should go into it. And I just went and I dropped my resignation letter in the bank.
What? Wait, so you are the only one working though?
Yes.
So you two decided to resign
Yes.
to pursue
And at
entrepreneurship?
the time I resigned
Yeah.
from work, I had just my last salary. I had no savings because obviously, as at that time, there was a lot of expenses that I
Yeah.
was footing.
Financial
So
things.
there
Yeah.
was no room for any extra saving. So my last salary for the month of resignation was what we're left with. Now, to now make matter worse, I had a debt that I was paying with the bank, which would be deducted from my last salary. So
Mm.
I think I left the bank with 2,000 naira after all my debts,
Expenses.
and
Yeah.
I've also taken my leave allowance.
Mm.
There's a sum of money we also call upfront payment
Mm.
that we are usually paid at the beginning of the year. All those money were factored into my last salary that I was expected to. And I told my
Wow.
wife, I said, look, this is what I have left, 2,000 naira, but would survive. And we went into business. In fact, my people around me said, Temidayo, you are crazy.
I mean, I would have said you are crazy.
Yeah, that was what a lot of people said. They said I was crazy. And at that time, we already had two children to feed. I've
What?
got relatives also living with us, my wife's younger siblings, two of them. I've got a full household with no money, just the business idea that we were venture. The business was not even set up. It wasn't set up prior to that time. I just told my wife, I said, we are going to go into this thing and we are going to make something out of it.
And did you?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
We did. I actually did it. We actually did it for a year together. And yeah, I can tell you the business. It's this natural products business.
Okay.
When I say natural products, it's the business that centers around African black soap, shea butter,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
honey, trading in it, and things like that. So then we'll go to the remote parts of Nigeria,
Mm.
some remote areas in southwestern part of Nigeria to get some of those things I interact with the elderly people, the farmers, and all of those things. We get those products. We'll bring it down to Lagos. We'll rebrand. We'll do all of those things. And as at that time, I was a logistic person. I was the marketer. I was a social media
Yeah.
person because basically for me to be able to push it down with a level of passion I put into it and commitment I put into it, I had to push it to. I targeted a certain kind of audience
Mm.
as my customers, right? And for the business, for the products that we were making, for it to actually meet their needs, it must be packaged in a certain way. It must be standardized to a certain level of framework. So myself and my wife, right from the interior of our room, we got into business and we started doing it and we started doing it. We
Mm.
started doing it and we survived on it till we came to the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Right. Even though after about a year, I went back into full-time job, right? Partly. But while working full-time, it also became my extra source of income.
Yeah.
And the money that I was getting from it was even far more than what I was earning on my full-time job.
Mm. I
Because
see.
I put and it was until we relocated to the United Kingdom that we actually put an end to it completely. As in for now because of the management issues around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
something that we are still looking forward into going to because it kept us going in our darkest moments,
Wow.
right? And we went into it with every with a mindset to succeed, and we succeeded in the business.
Wow.
So for me, emotional maturity, God factor, and the financial part of it just coming, but it shouldn't be the sole reason why you go into it because there might be ups and downs. And if you've actually based your decision of
On
going
those. Yeah.
into marriage as a young person on your earning capacity, if it fails, then that marriage might crash with it.
Okay. So there are some quotes that well, I call them quotes that you mentioned that I think are quite interesting. So I'm going to read it out actually. And I think I can see where you have lived one of them at least, or
Mhm.
in the story you just told, where
Yeah.
you decided, like, who does that?
Yeah.
Decided you're this sole earner right now
Yeah.
in a time where your wife is pregnant, or at least she quit a job, and then now you have two children, and then you decided to quit your job to go with
Fully into
2,000
business.
naira in the bank
Yeah.
and to go straight into business. The quote says that the word impossibility only exists in the mind.
Yeah.
Um, People were telling you, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
Um, because they thought it was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you got to a position where you believe that all things are possible if I believe it,
Yeah.
that it is possible. Would you
Yeah.
say that has been a should I say
It
a
has
way
been my
of life
mantra. Yeah.
mantra in terms
Yeah.
of everything that you do, even
Yes.
until now?
Yeah. I actually think it has actually been my mantra, to be honest. As in for me, whatever formed that mindset within me, I don't know, but I've always believed that there's really nothing that is not possible.
Mm.
Probably some of my study in sciences may have informed that, especially we all learned about the story of Thomas Edison, who invented the bulb, how he failed about 99 times before coming up with the solution of the bulb that everyone has today. So
Yeah.
for me, I've always believed that it's not really a bad thing for you to fail when you try your hands on things, right? It's only be bad if after you failed, you don't give it a second try.
Mm.
And I think I've actually done that for most parts of my life. Most
Mm.
part of my life. I've always tried my hand. I'm not always the best when it comes to things that are technical, right? But when it comes to whatever I believe in, if I believe in it, even if no one believes in it with me, I always give it my full commitment.
Mm.
And that has always been my guiding factor. My guiding factor. I've been in situations where people tell me, "Oh, Temidayo, this is not possible." So many situations, so many situations. They tell me it's not possible, and I'll tell them, "Well, it may not be possible to you, but I will give it a try. If I fail, I have just learned another way of not doing it. It
Mm.
doesn't really mean I'm a permanent failure."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why people shy away from trying is because of the fear or the stigma that
Of
comes with failing.
yeah.
There were times when, after we set up that business, that we had nothing to eat, nothing to eat. Because, like I said, we started it from the scratch, as in with no money, just. In fact, there was a year that that same year that we started that business, that I was to pay my house rent. And because the way it's been paid in Nigeria, we pay annually. Then I was not living in my house then.
Annually.
Yeah, annually. So,
Oh.
and my house rent became due during the period where we just started the business. I didn't put all that in focus while resigning. That how will I pay my house rent? And
Mm.
I just went with that crazy belief that I think this business is lucrative. I think I can actually do it. With my wife's support and my support, if we join us together, I
Mm.
think I can make something out of it.
Mm.
When I'm going to break even in the business, I didn't know. But even the money to invest in the business was not available. But if I go out and I share my idea and I tell people I'm selling this, you can actually pay in ad. All those crazy ideas were just coming to my mind. And I said, and with that, I went into the business and my house rent became due. There was no way to pay. And I've never hold a house rent since the
Mm.
time since the time I started living by myself. And my landlord knew that I don't owe house rent. What will I do? What I did then was I just spoke with some of my friends. I said, "See, you guys know, even though I know you were part of the people that told me I'm crazy and things like that, but give me this money. Within this so and so time, I know this business is going to peak.
Mm.
I'll pay you back." And because of the integrity that I had, they were willing to actually give me the money
Mm.
then. And I got my house rent. I didn't because probably because I actually worked in the credit department in the bank, as in, so I've always believed in be creditworthy in everything you do,
Yeah.
right? It's actually what you will not want to toil with. So even with things I also do with my house rent, I will not want to default. So I spoke with them, they gave me the phone, I paid, I paid my rent, and because of that passion, because of the things that was at stake, I went and I said, no, whatever is going to take me, I'm going to succeed in this. I learned how to create a blog myself. During those
Mm.
period, I created a blog. I learned how to package and brand materials. I learned how to design. I'm not a technical person, but because I just needed to succeed, and I don't have the money to outsource those services out,
Mm.
and I think that was where the place of my education came into play. Into play in the business. I just had to go, on YouTube, on
Mm.
Google, and all the different resources available to me to learn how to do things myself. And I got a platform that I thrived on, because as a result of those things that I came up with then, I got connections with so many offices in Lagos and across Nigeria. I got a larger audience even outside my originally targeted audience, which was within Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah.
I got customers from outside the country as a result of those soft skills that I picked up when I decided to move into the business fully.
Mm.
Then, and so for me, I've always believed that nothing is impossible. It's just because you've not given it a try. And if you give it a try and you fail, give it another try.
Another try.
You've learned something. So that has always been my mantra. Mhm.
Wow. Um, it's been a lovely conversation,
Mm.
and to wind it now, I want you to leave the audience with one word that has sustained you, or that you've learned from, or it doesn't have to be a word, just a piece of advice or something that you've learned over the years that you think has really shaped you and transformed you, and you think a lot of people can benefit from it, what would you say?
Well, I think I would say that life is in phases.
Mm,
No phase is permanent. As in, someone that you are seeing at this stage today, you don't know what has gotten him there. He may not be on that stage tomorrow. So don't look down at anyone and don't believe that whatever stage you are in, it's permanent.
mm,
For me, it's not permanent. It's just a phase. You are at a status today. Tomorrow you may not be there. It will come and it will pass. As in, so just take life easy. Trust in God. As in, trust in His plans for you. Trust in what He has said to you. And believe also in yourself.
mm.
Believe in your abilities. As in, even if you are not yet there today, you'll be there tomorrow. You will be there tomorrow. All you
Yeah.
just need to do is keep moving, keep trying. Don't take no for an answer. If you've not succeeded with one thing, it does not mean you won't succeed with it. Just keep moving. That phase will come and it will pass, and you'll move on to the next stage. And I think if you have that belief, as in it has worked for me, and I know if you have that belief, it will also work for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for this time. It's been wonderful. I think your journey and your story has been one of resilience for sure. You have, I think we've reflected on parenthood, we've reflected on communal discipline, we've reflected on the crazy idea to
Mhm.
quit your job and start a business. But I have to say that a lot of these entrepreneurship spirit, it's a way of life. It's a
Mhm.
way of thinking. It's
Mhm.
a mindset, like you have alluded to.
Mhm.
So um, we've discussed that, and I think those are some things that a lot of people need to take on board. It's okay to take risk. If you don't take risk, you're not going to do anything, right?
Yeah.
You're playing it too safe. But
Yeah.
it's been a privilege. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for coming,
Thank you so much for
um,
having me.
and thank
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
God bless.